Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and Brooke Rollins, who's the head of the Department of Agriculture, slams Jake Tapper for not only knowing nothing about tariffs, but not knowing how the world uses tariffs against the United States. Let's dive in.
President Trump talked about tariffs on the campaign trail. I think probably a lot of voters thought that he was talking about the kind of targeted tariffs that he implemented in the first term and not these global tariffs that have diminished, wiped $6.6 trillion of wealth off of Wall Street. But I have to say he didn't, when he was campaigning, talk about the pain that he is now acknowledging. And I have to say we're getting a very Pollyannish view of what's happening from the Trump administration.
I disagree with that, Jake.
Well, let me just finish the question. Let me just finish the question and then you can answer.
That's not right.
But there seems to be a lack of acknowledgement of the real pain and panic people are feeling right now. And I don't know if you saw it because you were on TV, but there was a moment on Thursday, you were on Fox Business, you were praising President Trump's leadership, celebrating these tariffs, and all the graphics surrounding you, again, this is on Fox Business, showed the markets in a nosedive. And so you disagree that I say there seems to be a disconnect between what you're saying and the reaction of the world. Tell me why you disagree.
Listen, the president has, even in his State of the Union, I believe, he said that there will be some uncertainty. When we did the targeted tariffs in 2017, 18, 19 with China, I mean, listen, I was in the West Wing. I was helping run his domestic policy agenda. I was in those conversations. Secretary Sonny Perdue, the Secretary of Agriculture, put together a fund, basically, that allowed us to make whole farmers and ranchers that were immediately, hurt and had to have some mitigation efforts. That happened. So the idea that we didn't know that there would be some uncertainty just isn't true. We knew there would be uncertainty. But to take Thursday or Friday, and as we are basically laying out the vision that the president effectuated in the Rose Garden on Wednesday, and to say, oh, the world is ending, the markets are crashing. The markets are adjusting. Anytime you've got a strong leader who's looking at the long term, not how do I make sure Jake Tapper says nice things about me on State of the Union, oh, maybe I shouldn't do the tariffs today. That just isn't how this president operates. He operates in how do I save a country that for 100 years has been sliding toward decline as we have moved all of our manufacturing out into the world, as we have bowed at the altar of other countries' tariffs, as we have watched our farmers and our ranchers, again, can't get our corn into Mexico, can't get our dairy into Canada, have Honduras buying more pork and poultry than the entire European Union, have a 700% tariff from Japan on our rice. This is not okay, and it is not sustainable. And for us to continue to build our agriculture, which is the backbone of our country, but also our manufacturing base, our energy, et cetera, for us to be able to do that, we have to put America first. So those tariffs, as the economy, the market begins to adjust, we will see a more positive as we move, I believe, very quickly.
So just in point of fact, the reason that the European Union, even though they are our fourth biggest market for agricultural products, as you know, don't take as much American pork as you would like is because they have issues with hormones used in pork. I don't want to get into a whole debate over that, but it's not an issue about tariffs. But let me ask you about the computation of these tariffs, because conservative economists at the American Enterprise Institute.
But wait, hold on, Jake. No. This is really important. You can't just say that. So here's the bottom line. They are using fake science and unsubstantiated claims to not take our products. So it isn't just that they have high tariffs. Thank you for making this point for me, by the way. I meant to make it. It's not just the tariff numbers. It's the way they've treated our products. Oh, sorry, we can't take your beef since 2002 because you use a certain type of feed. That's just absolute bull. It is not correct and not appropriate. Our supplies, our farmers and ranchers, we produce the safest, the most secure, the best food in the world. And so to use that for the EU to say, oh my goodness, we can't do it because of this reason, it's absolutely wrong, and it's not based on sound science.
Y'all, the party of science has struck again. And I'm actually talking about the Republican Party, because we actually seem to know whether a man is a man and a woman is a woman. We know when life begins. And we also know that, hey, the United States has one of the best agricultural outputs of any nation on Earth. The only other ones that can compare to that, honestly, is Ukraine, but there's a whole other set of problems going on there. And we often talk about the tariffs in the terms of the sheer size of the economic scale and, of course, the stock markets. We're Americans. We love our stock markets, okay? The New York Stock Exchange is the premier stock exchange across the world. Almost the entirety of the world has its gold reserves next to the Federal Reserve inside New York City. That place is the financial capital of the world. So we've got the financial capital in the world. We've got some of the best soil in the world. We've got some of the best agriculture in the world. You know what we don't have anymore? A great manufacturing middle class still in the United States. That's one of the things that these tariffs are designed to kickstart and restart. But there's a bigger problem going on here that the Department of Agriculture is trying to sound the alarm on, and that is the fact that the rest of the world wants to tariff the United States agricultural products in order to protect their own investments. Let's start off with the one in Japan. 700% tariff on rice. The state of Arkansas is known for rice production. Compare that to Japan, who wants to produce a lot of stuff there. But let's be honest, the reason why Japan's so obsessed over sushi and seafood is because only 16% of their land is farmable, okay? Compare that to well over 50% in the United States. That is a huge discrepancy. That makes things much more difficult for Japan. So what do? They protect their economy. And they do that with tariffs. And then let's really use the European aspect over here that that Brooke Rollins is really talking about here. And that's the idea that they protect their entire economies. Germany doesn't just protect their auto industry, they protect other parts of their more mechanized units, so to speak, but they will also protect their farms. France does the same, Poland does the same, the entirety of that sort of North European plain. And let's be honest, the South Mediterranean has their own thing going on in Europe, but Europe has one advantage that the United States doesn't have, and that is their farms are local, okay? Ours are not. If you look at a map of the United States compared to a map of Europe, most of Europe has incredibly good farmland right next door to their big cities. We sort of have that in the United States. The New England coast, that's good for farming, but particularly from Pennsylvania across the Ohio Valley, and then up to the Great Lakes, all the way out to North Dakota, and all the way south to the Ozarks, that's the American breadbasket, where we make our corn, our wheat, our pork, which got brought up in this video as well. But there's something even more specific that Europeans will try to do in order to edge out the American market. Here's what they do. And I'm quoting Brooke Rollins here. "Oh, sorry, we can't take your beef since 2002 because you use a certain type of feed," Rollins said, paraphrasing an argument she hears often from Europeans. "That's just complete bull. It's not correct and it's not appropriate." Essentially what Europeans are doing, what those nations are doing, they're saying that, "Oh, you do something wrong with your beef. We can't allow you to sell that here." Okay, that is a bunch of nonsense, okay? That is an attempt to say that the Europeans are going to produce European food as much as they can, and they'll buy from anyone else except the United States. Compare that to Australia, they'll ship out their beef anywhere, no one cares. Australia is very, very proud of their beef production, and they pretty much rival only one other country, and that is us, the United States. And we produce some pretty darn good beef. We're the ones that basically invented the beef selection model, and that is USDA Prime, USDA Choice, and USDA Select. And then, of course, you have the Japanese who pretty much invented Wagyu beef and Kobe beef. And yeah, if the Japanese do it, they always have their own methods. That's what's so cool about other nations. But then when you start realizing that other nations are punishing the United States for having their own successful models, for their own geography, and in order to protect their own nations, you realize that there's pretty much only a couple of things you can really do in that situation. And the time for just sitting back and letting history happen to us is over. The time for sitting back and letting the rest of the world basically try to edge us out of the market because they're either jealous or they know that they can't compete, that time's over. And there's pretty much only a handful of things you can do. You can try to innovate your way out of that mess, you can tariff your way out of that mess, or you could strong-arm your way out of that mess. And the strong-arm way doesn't always end well. The tariff way that always creates a little bit of chaos. That's why you see people pulling out their money out of the markets the way they are. And that's really all that they're doing. Or you can innovate your way out. That's another way that these tariffs are working. The tariff is sort of an in-between measure between the two. It can cause more innovation because you're making it more tolerable. You are also causing more nations to realize that, we might need to renegotiate some things with the United States or else we're going to get tariffed in turn. And so that's why these things are going to be effective, I think, in the short term and in the long term. It's going to pinch a little bit at the pocket, but I think the upside is much, much higher. This is like going down 10 points early in a game because you're letting your opponent basically show their hand first, and finally you adjust in the second half and you come back and win the game before we even get to overtime. That's what I think is happening in this model, but let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are the rest of the world ripping us off? I think so. That's what Brooke Rollins is saying, and Jake Tapper, bless his heart, is trying his best, and his best isn't enough. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.